So far in the preview season, Kaldheim looks amazing, but did this set just fix a quote-unquote janky commander deck build? What is up, Commander players? My name is Matt and you're watching Top Commander. So, on today's video, I basically wanted to go over some of the stuff that I've seen in the Kaldheim spoiler season. Of course, we're not done with spoiler season. Once we're done with that, I was going to do a full review later. But some of the stuff that I've been seeing in this set has been really amazing. I'm really excited for the altered art. The Celtic bordered art cards look really super sweet. But before we get into what deck they may have fixed in Kaldheim, or made better, if you wish to support this channel, be sure to like, share, and subscribe as always. And if you wish to support this channel directly, be sure to visit patreon.com/topcommander. We got a couple of new tiers added and some restructuring to make it hopefully a little bit more efficient. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about Kaldheim. The set of Norse mythology, Vikings, kings, gods. Yes, we are getting more gods. It seems like we have not had enough printed just yet. So, obviously, there's a few things that have been really crazy. A lot of people have tried and attempted for some time now to get God Tribal to work. Well, because of the World Tree from Kaldheim, this one land may have pushed it into overdrive. Now, mind you, once you see where this is going, you're going to know exactly how to stop this. But the World Tree enters the battlefield tapped. As long as you control 6 or more lands, you control lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. And then you pay Progenitus mana, which for those of you who are new, you're basically paying Wooburg twice. All 5 colors twice over. Tap, sacrifice the World Tree, search your library for any number of God cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Okay, well, that sounds pretty neat, right? So you just build God Tribal, and now you have a land that puts all your gods on the field. Is it that simple? Maybe not. Do you have to necessarily build a deck with all the gods in the history of Magic? Probably not, actually. There are now 3 cards that make this deck even more real. Not even just more real, it makes the deck happen. And can happen in worse ways than just the gods that have been printed in Magic. I'm referring to, of course, the spoiled card of Maskwood Nexus. 4 mana for an artifact. Just 4 generic mana, it's an artifact, no color involved. Creatures you control are every creature type. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. So this makes all of your creatures, hand, deck, library, field, graveyard, all of that, all of the terminology, everything you own that is a creature is all creature types. This is something that we've seen before. Most people will know it. Veteran players will know one of them from way back in the day. But this is the 3rd card now. The previous one to this was Arcane Adaptation. It is 2 and a blue for an enchantment that reads, as it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. Creatures you control are the chosen type. In addition to their other types, the same is true for creature spells you control, and creature cards that you own that aren't on the battlefield. Basically making your entire deck one creature type. In addition to the others, of course. But this works why? Because you can now make things tribal that aren't tribal. If this is making sense yet. The other one is, of course, Conspiracy. Conspiracy, and no, I'm not talking about the set for some of the newer players that are not familiar with this card. Conspiracy is a black card that costs 3 generic and 2 black for an enchantment that does the exact same thing as Arcane Adaptation. So those are the 3 cards that you basically are going to need for this. Now, once I saw all this, of course, I had a few questions because I wasn't sure how to handle this kind of information. We also got some of the new gods from Kaldheim. We have the gods from Theros. We have the gods from Amonkhet, right? So we have all of these different gods. There's quite a few at this point. As a matter of fact, I believe it'll be over 40 when Kaldheim is released. Either that or it'll be right at 40. I'll have to double check on that one. Of course, we don't know because we're still in spoiler season, so we don't know how many more we're getting. So, when you look at this deck, it doesn't seem like it would work that great because a bunch of the gods do vastly different things. How does this deck run? How does this deck function? Who is the commander? Well, a part of me felt like it could have been one of the gods from Kaldheim that is coming out soon. Asika, God of the Tree, is 1 green for a 1/4 legendary god with vigilance, tap to add 1 mana of any color, and other legendary creatures you control have vigilance and tap to add 1 mana of any color. But you're not playing that for that. The Prismatic Bridge is the MDFC. This god is an MDFC that turns into, on the other side of the card, when you flip it, it becomes the Prismatic Bridge. It is a legendary enchantment that costs Wooburg, which means Asika has the color identity of 5 colors. So if Asika is in your command zone, you also have access to a 5-color enchantment, and you are now running a 5-color deck. It gets a little funky. Now I know I have a feeling there's going to be some people out there that's not going to be thrilled with the MDFC cards in this set flipping into enchantments and equipment and vehicles. I understand that some people are not going to be okay with this, but at least it's not overly broken. I feel like the most broken one is probably the Prismatic Bridge at this point. So a legendary enchantment that costs Wooburg, you have to have all 5 colors to play it. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature or planeswalker. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay. So you can run big creatures with this. This can be part of a Super Friends build. You could just have big creatures with a Super Friends build. I mean, hey. Or it could just be straight up God Tribal and you running Asika with the Prismatic Bridge and have some kind of flavor when that the Prismatic Bridge is beaming in gods from all these different planes. Why not? Because the Prismatic Bridge, I believe, is the magic variant of the Rainbow Bridge, the Bifrost Bridge. So I feel like this could be a flavor win if you wanted to pull off a God Tribal deck with this. But if you wanted to maximize this, let's say you really wanted to just maximize jank, The World Tree is the card that is searching up all of your gods and putting them on the table. Now you can run all gods, or you can have like this weird, I'm going to have a bunch of just big beefy creatures and run like Maskwood Nexus and Arcane Adaptation and everything, and make all of my cards into gods to search out with the World Tree. That is a possibility. But what would be the better commander for that? In my opinion, it would not be a Sika. There's a couple of options to do in a 5-color God Tribal deck. I feel like in this case, the number one choice, because of the World Tree, your number one choice needs to be Golos, Tireless Pilgrim. Why, you ask? Because he's 5 generic mana. He enters the battlefield and searches a land. So if your deck is built completely on land-based ramp, no artifacts, if you're doing only land-based ramp, play Golos with 5 lands. He searches up the World Tree. World Tree is now turned on. You only need 5 more lands, because you have to have double Wooburg and the World Tree. But if you build this deck properly and you're ramping out really super fast with land-based ramp, it shouldn't be a problem. And then you pop the World Tree, and now you get to go digging for all your gods. And if you Arcane Adaptation or Maskwood of Nexus or Conspiracy, all of your creatures just come out onto the battlefield. Even your non-god creatures come out on the battlefield. So if you threw in like Hellkite Charger and Utvara Hellkite and got some extra attack steps and started flooding the sky with dragons, and maybe you have the Dragon, the 5-color Dragon in this deck, and then you just drop him out for free with the World Tree. From your deck, no less. This is just an idea that's been brewing around in my head. This deck sounds... It still, don't get me wrong, it still sounds janky. It still sounds like it's not going to be that super great, amazingly ultimate, awesome God Tribal deck by any stretch. This is just something that I was thinking about as a whole. Because what are your other options, really? What have been the really good options for 5-color commander decks for God Tribal specifically? Well, let's take a look at some of the past ones. I say past ones, this is still fairly recent. Sisay, Weatherlight Captain. Pay Wooburg and search your library for a legendary permanent, which all the gods have been legendary as far as I know. With converted mana cost less than Sisay's power. Now, Sisay is a 2/2, and then it gets +1/+1 for each color. So if you have all 5 colors on the table, Sisay becomes a 7/7. Good thing that don't believe there's a lot of the gods that are over 7 CMC. I don't think any of them are, actually. I think they're all pretty fairly cheap. Then we have Child of Alara. This, I can see why this was a 5-color God Tribal commander option. You're in 5 colors. When Child of Alara dies, destroy all non-land permanents. They cannot be regenerated. Most of the Theros gods, of course, were the ones that you have to have the devotion, and if the devotion wasn't there, then they were not considered creatures. But at the same time, you didn't really worry about that because they all were indestructible. They were either going to be an indestructible enchantment or an indestructible creature enchantment. So Child of Alara just says destroy. Well, with indestructible gods, you get to blow up the field with Child of Alara and keep all your gods and take out the board. That is so... yeah. Next up, Morphon the Boundless. What do you run for a commander when you have nothing else to run as a commander for a tribe because it has not been represented as much as some of the more known ones? You play Morphon. Cast him for 7 mana. All of your whatevers get +1/+1, and all of them cost up to Wooburg less in their mana cost. Now, let me be clear about how this works for, again, newer players that don't know. Wooburg less. So if you have a mono blue, let's say is God Eternal Kefnet, he costs 2 and 2 blue. He would cost 2 and 1 blue with Morphon, because he only reduces by Wooburg. There's only 1 blue pip, so yeah. However, if you play Xenagos, God of Rebels, which is 3 and a green and a red, he only costs 3 generic with Morphon. Just for that slight clarification. But, yeah. Oh, and there's this other one, too. I think this was probably the biggest meme deck for God Tribal. Potentially. There might be another one that I'm missing. But Corona, False God. I feel like the naming was just great, though. There's no way they knew about this. This was years ago, back in Scourge. That's an old set. You can tell. Look at this frame. Wooburg and 1. So all 5 colors plus 1. Generic. 5/5. On the card it says Creature Legend. Now you have to go to Gatherer to get the update Oracle text to find out what kind of creature type Corona False God is. Come to find out it's an avatar. I mean, makes sense. It looks like an avatar. But, you know, and it's a false god, so it wouldn't get the god creature type. Well, yeah. I'm just saying, I feel like it should be a avatar god or something. Avatar demigod. Has haste, and at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player untaps Corona False God and gains control of it. Whenever Corona attacks, creatures of the type of your choice get +3/+3 until end of turn. Basically, this thing is passing itself around. It is the False God because it's jumping around to everybody else. I mean, come on. Your God's not on your side. I guess that's kind of the thing about that one. So, yeah, with all these different options as far as building God Tribal, and with the few cards that we're getting as support, technically, for God Tribal, I want to know from you guys, what do you guys think? Would you build God Tribal? Would you build 5-color God Tribal? Which commander would you run for your God Tribal build? Would you go full God Tribal and try to purchase the gods? I know that they are pricey, so I feel like that's the reason why you would run the Maskwood Nexus, Arcane Adaptation, and Conspiracy, because some of those gods get pricey, so the deck can be very expensive, and if you wanted to put in some, like, cheaper alternative beat stick monsters and then play those 3 cards to make them into gods and search them out, you know, I could see that happening as well. But let me know what you guys think. Does this make God Tribal work? Or is this just give it a couple more tools to get it somewhere that hasn't gone before? Like, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next video.